everyone, this is Leimomi Keliikuli, Intuitive Soul Alignment Coach here, and I wanted to just jump on here to talk about some of the key things that you want to be doing while you are launching. Oh, it shut off for a second, sorry. So tomorrow is my Activate Your High Psychic Gifts webinar, and I wanted to share with you like what you can be doing and basically what I do before I do my webinar or when I'm launching something, like my programs and stuff like that. So I just wanted to show you my new little office, and so you can kind of see like what you need to do in order to set up for your webinar. If you ever create webinars, this is actually the best way to talk to your people, because you obviously have the ability to reach a wider audience just by sharing your knowledge on using technology. So let me just show you what my desk looks like now. Okay, so basically, this might be hard to show, but this is my whole office here. Actually, I have my photo stand there. And so here's like my actual to-do list. I would recommend getting one of these kind of, what do you call, like whiteboard things, and you can write down like your to-do today. So like, instead of getting Post-its and stuff like that, I just write it on an actual whiteboard, and I can add and I can delete it, accordingly. It's been super helpful by me having this. Like, honestly, like whatever I want to do today, I'm just making sure that I'm actually write it down on this thing, and then I can erase it with my dry eraser. That's been super helpful, like for my to-do. I've got like my schedule book and all the things that are necessary for me to use daily. I always keep on the left side there. Of course, I have all my crystals. I'm telling you, I have like tons of crystals. Every kind of crystal you can think of, I have here. So whenever I'm working, especially when I'm on a webinar and I want to ground myself or something, then like I grab like one of these pyrites or something like that. Just whatever I feel that I'm needing at the moment. So before I prepare any webinar, I use my crystals or in a way to help me to feel my body, to get more acquainted in the body, because honestly, your way of speaking with your audience, like your energy can fluctuate depending on who you're speaking with, right? I couldn't figure out how to get my monitor work today for some reason. It's not connecting. It's like a healer thing. I don't know. Like, I always have problems with like getting computer stuff working, even though like my business is all online. I have even my recorder. Whenever I want to create like an audio or something for my webinar or for any of my clients or even meditations, I have my digital recorder. So wherever I go, I already have it with me and I can just turn it on. It's one of the best things to always have your own, like your own like tangible things that you can use while you're launching. Of course, I have my salt lamp. This is like the best way to keep all of this weird energies, frequencies from your computer, to neutralize it. So I have this salt lamp. I have this really cool stand I got from Evernote, and it's been awesome to have this and this, like to elevate it at the eye level. It's so important because you don't want it to just be sitting directly on your desk, and it can be very uncomfortable. And I have my own keyboard. Despite that, I can use my own computer here. So like when I set everything up, like I'm just sitting here in front of my computer, and like I can have like for the webinar, there's like 147 people registered. I have like everything on top of, I check like my Facebook page to make sure that, and post. For like the first week, whenever I'm launching something, for the first week I do a lot of live streams, or I do like things to help my people to know that I'm launching something. And I always constantly am checking my personal messages and stuff like that to make sure it's all done. I would also recommend you buy a microphone, like a really good microphone. This is called, a snowball ice. So when you have a webinar, you want to have a really good microphone, not just like an earpiece, you know, because obviously it's going to affect the sound. And before I even do my webinar, I make sure that I check all the sounds, you know, through Skype. I make sure that I check through Skype that the sound is good, and or even one of my Zoom calls or stuff like that to just see what it sounds like. I also prepare my script, of course, and everything. I have my cool cup. Actually, this is a cup that I gave to my husband. It's like a picture of me and my son, and it's like what he was using when he was working his 9 to 5. And I always have flowers. So right now I only have this flower, but we have actually a whole bouquet of flowers, and I put them in my office here. So when I'm preparing, I'm honestly just creating sacred space. So a lot of you didn't see my office yet, but I'm just going to show you around. This is where I have my calendar. This is my vision board. And actually I have a little altar here in the window. Make sure I have my aromatherapy. Whenever I do sessions, I just light it and put the right aromatherapy that I want. I even have just like all the crystals all here. I even have like sage spray. I don't know if you can see it. I have sage spray and also rose petals, rose water. This is actually really good. Like spray this before you do your webinar or whenever you're talking with your people, your clients, because it gets you into a higher vibration. This clears it, and this gets you in higher vibration. This is my screen. I honestly, like, I found this at Ross, and like it's like the best investment ever. It's like it really represents my brand. So you can't really see here, but this is where I have all of my folders, where all my client stuff is all here, all my books. I have this, and I have, of course, another whiteboard, and this is where I put everything of like things that I need to do, that I need to align to up level my level of whatever like I want in my life or my business. In my 10 life areas, I write this all down here. I have a list here. I have things that I need to do soon. Like honestly, I haven't updated it right now because we've been moving. Things that I need to arrange soon, and things that I need to like figure out later. I even have what I need to, the amount that I need to do to like have the right revenue for the month. Yeah, so that's part. This is what you see in my office. Actually, I don't like this mirror thing, but this is the closet. It's actually honestly like, this is just the way it's set up. It's a closet here. And this is like really my view. It's actually the street. It's the front of our street, but yeah, it's actually a sliding door. But the only problem about it is that the sound carries. But anyway, I want to show you the kind of things that I have set up on my desk, so then you can really think about what you need to set up, right? Okay. Yeah, so this is some of the things that I think about when I'm setting up for my webinar. I'm making sure that I create sacred space. So having like roses and flowers, having my crystals ready for me. I obviously set up my altar to be of particular vibration of what I want to achieve for the webinar. For me, it's really about holding the sacred space and making this energy very expansive when I'm talking on the webinar, because if you're not very grounded before you do something very grandiose, honestly, like it can really affect your conversion and also how many people may attend. So actually this time there's about 150 people, and I always try to achieve about 200 people, because honestly, out of 200 people, maybe 80 to 90 people actually watch your webinar live. It's honestly amazing conversion. Every time when I launch my webinar, I always have maybe about 5 people that actually buy. So when you have like all the particular things I'll set up, like of course you can do things linearly, but you also have to set up the energy of the space. So I was looking at my emails that needs to get set up. So like my intention from the very beginning over the past week is to think about what is it that my audience need, right? So I did a lot of live streams this past week. I think like 5 of them that was just about teaching you about the activating your psychic gifts, right? All the kind of subjects that lead up to that, to help them to understand beforehand when they get on the webinar, they're like, oh, okay, I get what she's talking about. So you actually need to create momentum from the time when you decide you're going to make your webinar. It's not just, oh, I'm just going to show up and just do my webinar for that hour and then that's it. You're actually creating sacred space from the very beginning when you decide to do this, especially the first 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks, I honestly, I make all the copy and all the pictures and stuff like that. And of course, my VA, Christine, she does all of it. But holding the sacred space from the very beginning when you decided, for about 2 weeks before, it takes about 2 weeks, honestly, to have that many people, to have 200 people every webinar that I host. It really takes 2 weeks to gather that much people. We usually think, oh, just launch it in like maybe in 3 days you'll get 100 people. Not always, unless you have like a big list or you have a lot of people already watching you. And even if people are, I mean, like typically people, like 10 people watch my live streams, and then I share that also in other people's Facebook groups and stuff like that, to make sure that they are hearing that I'm setting up my webinar, that it's coming up on a certain day. And just like overall from the very beginning, when you think about doing your webinar, you have to actually go from an idea and to every day it's tangible, that people can actually experience what your webinar is going to be about. So everything I'm doing is just aligned action from the very beginning. Okay, what is it that my audience need to know beforehand? Setting up the sales page, setting up like all the, of course, so-called linear things you need to do. But right before you do your webinar, you do want to make sure that you go in nature, or you have connection to your soul's gifts. So actually later on, I'm planning on having fun with my son and my husband, so that we can have love and connection and healing, right? Because that's my soul's gifts. And so getting myself in that vibration physically, like going to the beach or doing something where we can actually have like this loving connection with each other. And then when I get on the webinar, I feel much more rejuvenated, right? We usually try to like push all the way to our webinar to get everything all set up, but it's better to have most of it set up like maybe 3 days before, and then right when you going to do your webinar, get yourself into your soul's gifts vibration, and like for maybe 2 or 3 days if possible. And then when you get in your webinar, you're in that higher vibration and people can feel your energy while you're doing this. And then afterwards, of course, you follow up. You can reach out to people that you know in particularly that would love your program, whatever you're selling, or you know, things that allow people to want to work with you. And I give a good week for people to watch the replay, because honestly, you have to also think about your people, what's best for them. Not just, oh yeah, I'm just going to be out for 1 day or 3 days, right? Like think about what is the best way that people could continuously watch your webinar, and how are they going to have access to the things that you are launching, right? So that's just my flow, right? I have my own opinion about how I launch my whole webinar and all that kind of stuff. I just want to show you guys a different aspect of me, that from the very beginning, I'm not just like throwing it out there and then just for 1 hour talking and that's it. No, I'm creating the sacred space from the very beginning, from the idea of what I'm going to create all the way to even a week later after my webinar. And you have to remember that even if you have 20 people honestly, like if somebody buys something, it's like zero, right? So you have to continuously gather people over a period of time, at least 200 people, because less than half are actually going to watch it. What is so cool is, since after the Google Hangout, like after they see, my webinar, I go back a week or two later, and I go look into my YouTube channel, because obviously that's where it goes. And then I go and check how many people actually watch. So from my last webinar, which was September 20 something, 20, I can't remember. But from that time, it's been about 2 or 3 weeks since I did that webinar. And when I checked it, originally about 90 people came live, which is like amazing, out of 200 people. And so later, 3 weeks later, I can see actually 160 people watched it. So even if you stop, showing your replay, people will watch it eventually, right? And keep in mind, for what you are sharing is very valuable, and you can also repurpose it in a different way later on. So, but make sure that you're aligning to your audience just as much as they're aligning to see you at the same time, right? It's really like this energetic exchange while you are creating your content, doing the webinar, and getting people coming, and even after the webinar. Make sure that all of these pieces that I'm sharing with you right now comes together so that people can hear you. Because your message is about getting people to know what you're talking about, what you're sharing, right? And if it's not very clear, it's not just a one-time deal. It's like it takes some progression before people get it. Like, oh, okay, she's talking about this. I should join her program that starts on this date, right? Making sure that you have that follow-up after that launch is so important. So anyway, I just want to share that with you guys. Thank you for listening. Hi, Angelo, Carlos, Safra, Kimberly, Carolyn, Nicola, Katrina, Vivian, Christine, Nadia. Yeah, I just felt like I just need to jump on here and just share with you guys this really cool stuff, just behind the scenes. So if you just jumped on in, kind of re-listen to the replay, because I just showed you like everything about what kind of things I set up, but also on the other end of what you're doing online and how that's going to affect your entire launch sequence. So of course, the last part I want to say about that is just make sure that because of course the sale is important, okay? You're doing the whole thing for the point of getting the sale, right? And one of the things that I think we do is we kind of sabotage the sale by actually not opening ourselves to the actual, money. So one of the things that I do in order to make sure that the sales actually happen is, of course, I have that clear number in my head. So like, okay, I need 10 people that I want to join this, webinar this time. And then out of that 10 people, looking at my webinar conversion, okay, at least I need 5, or at least I need 2 that's going to come from that. And then what you want to do is you want to take your content that you created and like repurpose it so that other people can see it. So what you can do is just live stream about it. Take what you already said, but take bits and pieces of it and just keep talking about it after your webinar and before the due date. Okay, before the due date of when you are going to launch your program, right? Give yourself a due date, because otherwise you're just not going to do it. Like, you're not going to get the sale. You're just going to be like, oh, okay, let's see, whatever happens, right? Just take the content that you've already made and just like talk for 5-10 minutes about each part of it. So then people get educated about it, and then give the call to action that please sign up. And you can also reach out to particular people who said that they were very interested, and take that last week before you have that due date of when you want that many people to come, Just take that content and reuse parts of it or expand upon it a little bit more, so you're giving the value, and then the more people will come for your program. Because what we can do is be like, oh yeah, I'm done with the webinar, so I don't need to do anything else, like let's see what happens. No, like you have to create momentum continuously until you're done, until like you've got that 10 people in your program. And no, don't be scared to reach out to people. I'm reaching out to some people that said that they're interested in my not just only my webinar, but just interested in my group programs. And I just have conversations with them, like PM message them, just to have a connection. Because then the clearer you have that connection with people, the more likely that they will buy it from you. Even if it's not right now, they're going to end up buying it eventually. So don't ever think like you have to do it in a very linear way. Think in a very organic way. How are you going to get the connections that you need to help these people to become your clients, right? To pay you for it. Because then they will be like, they will join your membership site, or they will join whatever you launch eventually. But you have to nurture the connection and the relationship, and the more you're visible about yourself this way. For me, live streams works. Live streams don't work for certain people. Don't do it. You know, use the tool that allows people to be gathering towards your tribe so that they can see you consistently. Because honestly, people don't really open their emails anymore. The best way is they either have to see you in social media, or they got to be in your Facebook group, or they got to be in your membership site for them to constantly be engaging with you. So don't be afraid to be visible that way until they become your clients. Don't have that attachment either, like that person has to become my client. I don't have any attachment. I just do me, talk about whatever I want to talk about, and then, you know, allow people to come when they're ready. Holding that sacred space. So from the very beginning, the whole launch, honestly, is holding space. Holding space for people to go from A, which is they don't know anything about you, right, to watching their webinar, which they like, oh my God, like she's amazing. They have that feeling of she's amazing. And then connecting with them, whether it's social media or your email list, and so that they're constantly seeing you, to eventually they'll be like, okay, I'm seriously got to buy from this lady. Okay. All right. Anyway, this is what I want to share, giving you guys value again. Constantly see yourself at a bigger perspective, and make sure that this whole launch is all about that connection and about education and giving value. The more you give value, the more likely people will want to buy. All right. All right, so I'm going to continue with preparing for my webinar stuff, like what I just showed you. And so I'll see you guys all tomorrow. If you haven't registered yet, I'll put the link below, and also for my 30-day program that's coming up November 1st. Think about it, right? Think about what you want to know more about, and then you know, watch my webinar and maybe give you some ideas. Because I honestly, when I make my webinars, it's not like typical webinar. Believe me, the kind of webinars that you see that I do is totally different from the way other people launch their webinars. It's a very soulful and organic way that I'm doing it. All right, well, I love you all, and I'll talk to you guys all soon. Aloha.